Have you ever stood in the kitchen, holding your keys, and forgotten why you picked them up? It's not dramatic. It's not even scary, but it's real. And if it's happened more than once, you might be noticing what aging quietly does. For many seniors, the signs don't come in big, sudden moments. They arrive slowly, subtle things. You forget a name, a word slips away. You sit down to rest, and an hour disappears. Tasks that used to take 10 minutes now stretch across the afternoon. Your body needs more breaks. You repeat yourself without realizing. Some days, your energy fades before lunch. No one told you this would happen. They spoke of retirement, of freedom, of rest. But they didn't mention that tying your shoes might feel harder, that conversations might require more focus, that sleep might come later and leave sooner. It's not your fault, and it's not weakness. It's just a part of growing older that too few people talk about. But we will. In this video, we'll name 12 quiet, difficult shifts that many people face as they age, the kind no one warns you about. If any of this feels familiar in your body, your mind, or your heart, stay with us, because what comes next might help you feel a little more understood, a little less alone.
Part 1. Forgetful of names and details. It's something many older adults don't expect, and when it starts happening, it feels small but unsettling. You're in the middle of a story and forget a name. You walk into a room, then stop, wondering what brought you there. You misplace the same object twice in one morning, or someone greets you warmly and you can't remember where you know them from or what they mean to you. The National Institute on Aging calls this kind of shift mild forgetfulness, and it's one of the most common experiences for people in their 60s, 70s, and beyond. It's not always a sign of illness. Often, it's just part of how aging affects memory. Names and details take longer to retrieve, especially under pressure. For Eleanor, 69, the change came gradually. First, it was small things, leaving the oven on, skipping over steps in a recipe she knew by heart. But the moment that stayed with her was simpler. She ran into her old neighbor at the farmer's market, a woman she'd known for years. She recognized her face instantly, but the name? Nothing. They spoke kindly. Eleanor smiled. She nodded. She made it through. But afterward, she sat in her car and cried. She felt like she'd failed some invisible test, she said. Instead of ignoring it, Eleanor made space for the change. She started keeping a small notebook. Names, moments, things worth remembering. "I'm not trying to win Jeopardy," she joked. "I just want to stay present with the people I care about." She also repeats names out loud, keeps her phone, wallet, and keys in the same dish by the door, uses her calendar like a teammate. None of it's perfect, but it's enough. If you've ever had a moment like this, or seen it happen to someone you love, just leave a 1 in the comments. Someone else will see it and feel a little less alone.
Part 2. Sudden exhaustion. It's not the kind of tired you fix with a nap. It's a wave, unexpected, deep, and sometimes hard to explain. You wake up feeling fine. You make breakfast, fold laundry, check the mail, and by noon, you're done. Not sleepy, drained, like your body just hit a wall you didn't see coming. This kind of fatigue is common among older adults. Studies from the Mayo Clinic show that as we age, energy levels naturally decline due to changes in muscle mass, hormones, and even how efficiently our bodies use oxygen. It's not a failure, it's biology, and yet, when it happens, it feels personal. For Harold, 74, it started after he retired. He expected to feel rested, even energized, but instead, simple things wore him out. A trip to the store, a phone call with his daughter, even getting dressed some mornings felt like a task. At first, he pushed through. He blamed himself for being lazy. But one afternoon, after nearly falling asleep on the porch just after lunch, he knew he had to adjust, not resist. Now, Harold builds his days differently. He spreads his tasks out. Grocery shopping one day, laundry the next. He eats smaller, more frequent meals, drinks more water, and rests when he needs to, without guilt. He's also added light walks, just 10 minutes at a time. Strange, he says, but moving a little actually helps me feel less tired than sitting still. Fatigue doesn't always mean something's wrong, but if it persists or worsens, it's worth speaking to a doctor just to rule out any underlying issues. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself isn't to push harder, but to slow down gently. If you've ever felt this kind of deep tiredness, or seen it in someone close to you, just leave a 2 in the comments. It might be the quiet nudge someone else needs to feel understood today. Part 3. Unexpected weight gain. You haven't changed how you eat. You're still active, more or less, but the number on the scale keeps creeping up. And it's not just the number, it's how your body feels. Tighter in places that used to move freely, softer in ways that don't feel like you. For many seniors, gaining weight comes as a surprise, especially when their habits haven't changed much. But as the National Council on Aging explains, metabolism slows with age. Muscle mass decreases, hormones shift, and even how we process food evolves. Your body might need fewer calories, but no one tells you when that moment arrives. Janice, 71, was always proud of staying on her feet. Gardening, volunteering at church, even walking her neighbor's dog each morning. But over the past year, her pants fit tighter, her knees started aching more, and she felt sluggish, not just physically, but emotionally. At first, she felt embarrassed. "I haven't changed anything," she kept telling herself. But eventually she realized that was the point. Her body had changed, even if her habits hadn't. So she made small shifts. Not diets, not rules, just gentler choices. She swapped heavy lunches for smaller, balanced plates, added protein, cut back on sugar. She started stretching in the morning, walking shorter distances more often, and doing light strength exercises with soup cans in the kitchen. The weight didn't disappear overnight, but her energy came back. Her knees hurt less, and more than anything, she felt like she was listening to her body again, instead of fighting it. If the scale has surprised you lately, you're not alone. Aging doesn't mean giving up. It means adjusting, with patience, not punishment. If this sounds familiar, or if someone you care about is facing the same thing, leave a 3 in the comments. Your quiet honesty might help someone else feel less ashamed and more ready to begin again.
Part 4. More frequent doctor visits. The waiting room wasn't always part of your routine, but now it's there every month, sometimes more. A blood test, a checkup, a referral, another follow-up. You write it on the calendar, set the reminder, bring your folder, and even when nothing feels wrong, there you are, explaining how you feel, how you sleep, what's changed. This is a familiar rhythm for many older adults. According to the CDC, people over 65 account for nearly 40% of all outpatient doctor visits in the US. Not because they're unwell, but because staying well takes more care now than it used to. Miriam didn't plan on knowing the front desk staff at her clinic by name, but over the past 2 years, she's been there often enough to remember birthdays, ask about grandkids, and know which nurse gives the gentlest blood draw. She's 73, still sharp, still living alone, still walking to the library every Wednesday. But her calendar, it's half medical appointments now. And that used to bother her, like her life was shrinking into checklists and lab slips. But then she realized these visits aren't interruptions. They're insurance. They're how she stays ahead of trouble, finds small problems before they become big ones. They don't make her fragile. They make her prepared. Now she keeps a simple health journal, a small notebook where she writes down symptoms, questions, medication changes. Before each visit, she reviews it,
After, she updates it. It helps her feel less like a patient, more like a partner in her own care. There's nothing weak about paying attention to your body. In fact, there's strength in it. Quiet, steady strength. If your calendar looks a little like this, or if someone close to you is juggling more appointments than ever, type a 4 in the comments. Because sometimes sharing the pattern makes it feel just a little more normal.
Part 5. Difficulty focusing or concentrating. You sit down with a book you've been meaning to finish. 3 pages in, your eyes glaze over. You turn a page, then realize you haven't absorbed a word. You try again, same result. It's not that you're uninterested, your mind just won't hold still. It drifts to the mail you forgot to open, the appointment next week, the name you were trying to remember earlier but still can't find. For many older adults, this is a quiet shift, not memory loss exactly, but a kind of mental fog. The National Institute on Aging notes that changes in focus and processing speed are common with age. It's often linked to sleep, stress, medication, or even hearing difficulties. But whatever the reason, it feels personal when it happens. Tom used to be razor sharp. He's 70 now, retired from decades as an engineer. His mind once worked like a blueprint, organized, deliberate. But lately, he finds himself rereading the same line, getting lost in conversation, forgetting what he came into the room to do. At first, he brushed it off. "I'm just tired," he told himself. Then he got frustrated. One morning while paying bills, he forgot how to log into his own account, a process he'd done monthly for years. That's when it hit him. This wasn't about laziness. It was change. So Tom adapted. He uses timers, breaks big tasks into smaller ones, does the most mentally demanding things before noon when he feels clearer. He reads in short bursts, keeps conversations quieter, one voice at a time. He also added more movement to his days, walking, gentle stretching. It clears the clutter, not all of it, but enough. And he talks about it now, with friends, with his wife, even with his doctor. That helped most of all, because once the silence broke, the shame did too. Focus might be harder now, but you haven't lost your mind. You're just learning how to work with it differently. If any of this feels like your day or someone you love, leave a 5 in the comments. It might give someone else permission to stop hiding the same thing.
Part 6. Loneliness and shrinking social circles. You go to make coffee and realize you haven't spoken to anyone today. You check your phone, no missed calls. You turn on the TV, not to watch, just to hear a voice that isn't your own. This is one of aging's hardest surprises. Not the big losses, but the quiet, gradual ones. The friend who moved closer to their children. The neighbor who passed away. The weekly group that stopped meeting. According to the National Academies of Sciences, more than 1 in 3 adults over 60 report feeling seriously lonely. It's not just about being alone, it's the absence of connection, the kind that grounds you in the world. Esther never thought she'd feel that way. She's 76, used to host dinner parties, ran a community choir, always had someone to check on. But now, her husband is gone. Her best friend moved to Florida. Her daughter calls, but life is busy. Some mornings, the silence stretches too long. So she makes noise, clinks dishes, talks to her plants, keeps the radio on during breakfast, anything to push back that hollow feeling. Then one Thursday at the grocery store, a cashier recognized her. "Haven't seen you in a while," he said kindly. Just 5 words, and she almost cried. That night, she signed up for a local book group at the library, not because she loves books, but because she misses people. It was awkward at first, but she kept going.
Now she bakes something small to bring each month. It's not about the story in the book. It's about the story that happens when we sit around the table. Loneliness isn't weakness. It's a signal, a gentle ache asking for connection. If this kind of quiet ache rings true for you, leave a 6. It might be the start of a new kind of connection.
Part 7. Decreased mobility and physical limitations. You bend down to tie your shoe and feel it. That stiffness in your back. The tight pull behind your knees. Not pain exactly, just resistance. A reminder that something simple has become complicated. Mobility doesn't disappear overnight. It fades quietly. You start using the handrail when you didn't before. You hesitate before getting up from a soft couch. You stop walking quite as far, not out of fear, just fatigue. According to the National Institute on Aging, 1 in 3 adults over 70 has some difficulty with walking or balance. And for many, it doesn't come from injury, but from gradual changes in strength, flexibility, and joint function. Doug used to do all his own yard work. He's 75 now, still lives in the same house, still waves to neighbors from his driveway. But last fall, he tripped over a garden hose. He didn't fall, but it shook him. He realized he hadn't stretched in months. His legs felt slower, his steps less certain. At first, he stopped moving as much, unsure of what his body could still do. But that only made things worse. So he started again slowly. He joined a senior movement class at the local rec center. All chairs and gentle stretches. He walks for 15 minutes after lunch. He uses light resistance bands at home. Nothing fancy, just motion. Mobility isn't about doing what I used to do, Doug says. It's about making sure I can keep doing what still matters. He's also learned to ask for help with heavy lifting, icy steps, even trimming the hedges. Not because he's helpless, but because staying safe means staying independent longer. Mobility isn't just physical, it's emotional. It's the quiet confidence that you can still move forward, even if it's slower than before. If you felt this shift in yourself or quietly noticed it in someone else, type a 7 in the comments. It might remind someone else that slowing down doesn't mean stopping.
Part 8. Trouble sleeping and nighttime restlessness. You go to bed at a decent hour. You're tired. The lights are off. The room is quiet. But sleep doesn't come. You shift, turn your pillow, count breaths, think about nothing, which somehow leads to thinking about everything. And when sleep finally finds you, it doesn't stay. You wake at 2 a.m., stare at the ceiling, watch the clock crawl toward morning. For many older adults, this kind of sleep disruption is more than occasional. The Sleep Foundation reports that changes in circadian rhythm, lower melatonin production, and age-related discomfort make it harder for people over 65 to fall and stay asleep. Lyndon never had this problem before. She's 74, used to sleep through anything, but now she dreads the night. She lies down with the weight of the day still on her chest. Her legs ache. Her mind won't settle. She watches the shadows shift across her bedroom and wonders when rest got so hard to reach. She tried warm milk, then reading, then moving her bedtime later. Nothing really helped until she stopped trying to fix it and started making space for it. Now she follows a simple rhythm. No caffeine after noon, a hot shower an hour before bed, gentle music, soft lights, no phone, no news. She keeps a notebook beside her bed, not for big thoughts, just to write down whatever's circling her head so it doesn't have to live there all night. She says she still wakes sometimes, but now she breathes through it, stretches her fingers, listens to the quiet. "I don't fight sleep anymore," she says. "I let it come when it's ready." Sleep might look different as you age, but rest, true rest, is still possible. If you've known these long, quiet nights or love someone who lives through them, type a 8 in the comments. It might make someone feel less alone at 2 a.m. Part 9. Hearing and vision changes. You're in a room full of people, and suddenly, it feels like you're not part of the conversation. You smile, nod, pretend to catch the joke, but you didn't quite hear it. Or maybe you're reading the paper, and the words blur together. You blink, rub your eyes, adjust your glasses. Still not clear. These aren't just inconveniences. They're subtle forms of isolation. Moments when the world becomes harder to access. The National Institute on Deafness and Other Communication Disorders says that nearly 1 in 3 people over 65 has some degree of hearing loss. Vision changes, especially related to contrast and depth, are also common as we age. And while these shifts might seem small, they often carry a quiet emotional weight, especially when they change how we connect. Gerald noticed it during church. He's 78, has sat in the same pew for 20 years. One Sunday, he couldn't hear the sermon, thought the microphone was off. Then he noticed he was turning the TV louder, asking people to repeat themselves, reading lips without meaning to. For months, he said nothing. Hearing aids felt like giving in. He didn't want people to see him as old. But one day, while visiting his grandson, he missed a whole story. The boy's eyes wide, hands moving, voice soft. Gerald just nodded, laughed when he thought he should. And afterward he realized he hadn't truly been there. So he went for a test, got fitted for small, nearly invisible aids. He also updated his glasses prescription. "It's strange," he says, "how much more you feel like yourself when you can actually see and hear the world again." Sensory changes don't make you less of who you are, but responding to them might help you return to who you've always been. If this feels close to your own experience or someone's you care about, drop a 9 in the comments. It might be the nudge someone needs to stop pretending they're fine.
Part 10. Loss of confidence or independence. You stand at the top of a short staircase, 5 steps. You've walked it 100 times, but today something shifts. Your foot hovers. You hesitate, just for a second, but it's enough. That hesitation is new, and it stays with you long after the steps are behind you. For many older adults, the biggest change isn't physical, it's emotional. It's not that you can't do something, it's that you start to doubt if you should. According to a study from the Journal of Aging and Health, fear of falling or making mistakes often leads to a reduction in activity even before any real physical limitation. And over time, that fear becomes habit. Helen, 79, used to drive herself to the grocery store every Tuesday. Then one day, she missed a stop sign. Nothing happened, no accident, no ticket, but it rattled her. She started driving less, then not at all. She told her daughter it was to save gas, but the truth was harder to admit. She didn't trust herself. She stopped going out as much, let errands pile up, canceled dinner plans more often, and slowly, without meaning to, her world shrank. Her turning point came quietly. A neighbor knocked, asking if she'd like to come to a senior lunch down the street. She almost said no, but she said yes. The walk was short, the meal was simple, but the laughter, the ease, reminded her of who she'd been. Now,
Helen makes small choices to rebuild her confidence. She rides with others, takes short walks in safe places, does crosswords to stay sharp, and when she hesitates, she speaks it out loud, then steps forward anyway. Losing confidence doesn't mean losing yourself. It just means you may need to rebuild trust, not in the world, but in your own hands and feet. If you felt this shift or watched someone grow quieter in their own life, type a 10 in the comments. You might help someone name something they've been carrying in silence.
Part 11. The temper that feels too sharp. You snap at someone you love over something small. A question repeated, a drawer left open, the TV too loud. And the moment the words leave your mouth, you regret them. It's not how you meant the sound, but lately, that edge comes quicker, sharper, uninvited. For many older adults, irritability isn't about anger, it's about depletion. Doctors at the Mayo Clinic note that as we age, things like poor sleep, chronic pain, changes in brain chemistry, and even medication can lower our emotional resilience. Reactions that used to stay inside now spill out. Ray, 72, always saw himself as patient, the kind of grandpa who built puzzles, fixed bikes, read stories twice without complaining. But last winter, his grandson knocked over a glass of juice, and Ray yelled. Not loud, but loud enough. The boy's face crumpled. Ray's heart did too. I wasn't mad at him, he said later. I was mad at how tired I felt, at how hard the day had been. But he didn't know that. After that, Ray started paying closer attention, not to others, but to himself. He noticed the times of day when he felt shortest, the triggers, the hunger, the noise. And he began building small buffers. A 5-minute walk before dinner, saying, "Give me a minute," instead of snapping. Keeping quiet when nothing needed fixing. He also started talking about it to his daughter, his doctor, his friends. And they told him the truth. They'd been feeling it too. They just didn't know they could admit it. Losing patience doesn't make you cruel, but naming it can make you kinder to others and to yourself. If this part of aging has surprised you or shown up in someone you love, type a 11 in the comments. It might help someone else feel seen, not judged.
Part 12. The help you don't want to ask for. The jar won't open. The step stool feels too high. The prescription is ready, but the pharmacy's across town. You pause, then say, "I'll get it later." But later keeps moving further away because asking feels heavier than doing it yourself. For many older adults, the hardest part isn't accepting help. It's needing to ask. According to the National Council on Aging, older adults often delay asking for assistance because of pride, fear of being a burden, or the desire to protect their sense of control. But over time, that silence can lead to deeper isolation and greater risk. Marlene is 77, proud, independent, the kind of woman who always returned her own shopping cart, even in the rain. But one afternoon, she stood in the garage staring at a box too heavy to move. Her neighbor saw her and offered help. She smiled and said, "I'm fine." She wasn't. She waited 2 days, finally called her niece. They laughed through it, but Marlene felt something shift. Not shame, just a kind of quiet sadness, like she'd crossed into a new chapter of life without meaning to. So she decided to try something different. She wrote a list, just a small one, of things she might need help with once in a while. Groceries when it's icy, carrying laundry down the stairs, reading tiny labels at the store. And she showed it to her niece, not as a plea, as a partnership. This way, she said, I won't wait until it's too late to ask. Now when her niece helps, Marlene returns the favor in other ways. A meal, a phone call, an extra plant for the porch. The give and take still lives, just differently. Asking isn't weakness. It's trust. It's letting someone in before the silence fills the whole room. If you've ever hesitated to ask or watched someone you love carry too much alone, type a 12 in the comments. You might open a door for someone who's been waiting outside it.
You don't notice it all at once. It's a drawer you don't reach for anymore. A name you hesitate to say. A walk that takes a little longer. Nothing dramatic, nothing loud. But you feel it, in the quiet, in the way your days shift without asking. These changes don't mean you failed. They just mean you've lived long enough to notice them. Aging doesn't come to take your strength. It comes to ask for a different kind. The kind that lets you speak honestly, move gently, and show up anyway. If something in this video spoke to where you are, or where someone you love is, leave the number that stayed with you most in the comments. Someone might see it and feel a little less strange about what they're going through. And if you'd like to keep hearing quiet truths like these, subscribe to Elderly Life. We'll be here each week, saying what others might not, but what you've probably felt